Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a question. Why do some people stay stuck while others level up year after year? It's not luck. It's not education alone. It's not even hard work by itself. The real difference is communication. Because how you communicate determines how you think, how you influence, how you negotiate, and ultimately, how much economic value you create in the marketplace. Today, I want to talk to you about this powerful idea, leveling up your life, equal sign, leveling up your communication. In economics, one of the most powerful concepts is human capital, the collection of skills, knowledge, and abilities that make an individual productive and valuable in the marketplace. Communication is not just another soft skill. It is one of the highest return investments in human capital you can make. Think about this. Two people can have the same education, the same experience, and the same intelligence. But the one who can communicate clearly, confidently, and persuasively will always earn more, lead more, and influence more. Communication turns knowledge into economic value. Without it, even the smartest ideas remain invisible and unpaid. Here's a powerful hook. Your income grows in direct proportion to your ability to communicate value. When you speak with clarity, you reduce confusion, increase trust, and speed up decision-making. Employers pay more for people who can explain complex ideas in simple terms. Entrepreneurs attract more investors when they can communicate vision and strategy with confidence. Leaders build stronger teams because their words align to people with purpose. Communication is the bridge between potential and performance, between effort and earnings. In the labor market, communication is a signal. When you articulate your thoughts professionally, you signal competence, confidence, and credibility. These signals influence hiring decisions, promotions, and leadership opportunities. Economically speaking, better signals lead to better market outcomes. A person who can present ideas, negotiate terms, and influence stakeholders is not just a worker, they are a high-value asset. Another hook. Skills make you competent, but communication makes you indispensable. In a knowledge-driven economy, ideas are currency, and communication is the exchange system. The ability to write, speak, persuade, and listen transforms technical skill into measurable economic output. Companies invest in people who can represent the organization, manage relationships, and drive results through dialogue and persuasion. When you level up your communication, you are literally upgrading your human capital. You are increasing your market value, expanding your influence, and multiplying your economic opportunities. Communication is not just how you speak, it is how you think, how you connect, and how you convert ideas into impact and income. Economic value is created when problems are solved and needs are met. But value is only captured when it is clearly communicated. Communication is the mechanism that transforms ideas into products, services, contracts, and profits. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you cannot explain it, sell it, or convince others to support it, its economic value remains zero. An idea that is not communicated is an asset that never enters the market. This is why communication sits at the core of entrepreneurship, management, and economic exchange. Here's a hook. Markets don't reward silence, they reward clarity. Entrepreneurs who can communicate their vision attract investors, customers, and employees. Investors spun stories they understand and trust. Customers buy solutions they clearly see and emotionally connect with. Teams perform better when leaders communicate expectations and strategy with precision. Communication creates alignment, and alignment creates productivity, which directly contributes to economic growth and organizational success. In business, persuasion is a form of economic leverage. When you persuade, you influence decisions, and decisions control the flow of money, resources, and opportunities. A salesperson who communicates benefits effectively increases revenue. A manager who communicates goals and feedback effectively increases productivity. A negotiator who communicates strategically secures better deals. Every economic transaction begins with a conversation. Another hook: if value is the product, communication is the packaging that makes people want to buy it. Clear messaging reduces uncertainty, builds trust, and lowers perceived risk. In economics, lower uncertainty increases transactions, and more transactions drive growth. Communication, therefore, acts as a catalyst for market activity, enabling faster decisions and stronger economic relationships. In the digital economy, communication has become even more powerful. A single message, presentation, or social media post can reach global markets instantly, turning individual ideas into scalable economic assets. Content creators, consultants, and digital entrepreneurs monetize their communication directly, proving that words themselves can be a high-value economic product. When you master communication, you are not just sharing information. You are creating, shaping, and capturing economic value. You become a producer of influence, a driver of decisions, and a catalyst for transactions in the economic system. In economics, one of the biggest problems in markets is information asymmetry, a situation where one party knows more than the other. When information is uneven, markets become inefficient, trust decreases, and bad decisions are made. Communication is the tool that reduces this gap and creates transparency, efficiency, and fairness. When you communicate clearly, you don't just share words. You balance power. In organizations, markets, and negotiations, the person who communicates information effectively controls understanding, and understanding controls outcome. Here's a hook. Confusion is expensive, but clarity is profitable. When employers clearly communicate expectations, employees perform better. When companies clearly explain products, customers make faster buying decisions. When leaders communicate strategy, teams align their actions with organizational goals. Every time communication reduces misunderstanding, it saves time, reduces costs, and increases productivity. Key drivers of economic efficiency. Information asymmetry often leads to mistrust. Buyers fear being cheated, employees fear being misunderstood, and investors fear uncertainty. Effective communication reduces these fears by increasing transparency. Trust is the currency of modern economies, and communication is how trust is printed. When people understand what is happening, they are more willing to invest, collaborate, and transact. This is why businesses spend billions on marketing, reporting, and stakeholder communication. It reduces uncertainty and stimulates economic activity. Another hook: the person who explains the rules controls the game. In negotiations, contracts, and leadership, the ability to clarify terms and expectations gives you strategic advantage. When you clearly explain value, risks, and benefits, you influence decisions. When you fail to communicate, others fill the gap with assumptions and assumptions are often costly. In economic terms, miscommunication creates inefficiency, while clear communication creates optimal outcomes. In the digital and global economy, information moves fast, but understanding does not always follow. Professionals who can simplify complex information become highly valuable. Analysts, consultants, educators, and leaders who translate data into actionable insights reduce information gaps and drive better decisions across organizations and markets. This translation of knowledge into understanding is itself an economic service. When you level up your communication, you reduce information asymmetry in every environment you enter. You become a connector between knowledge and action, between complexity and clarity, between uncertainty and confidence. And in economics, reducing uncertainty is one of the fastest ways to increase value, influence, and opportunity. In economics, opportunities exist in networks, and networks expand through communication. Every conversation, presentation, message, or negotiation is a gateway to a new market, partnership, or career path. Communication is the tool that connects you to people, resources, and opportunities beyond your immediate environment. Your words are your passport to bigger markets and better opportunities. The more effectively you communicate, the more doors you unlock in the economic system. Here's a hook. Opportunities don't just appear, they are spoken into existence. When you communicate your goals, skills, and ideas, people become aware of your value. Employers discover talent through interviews and discussions. Investors discover startups through pitches. Clients discover solutions through marketing and conversations. If you stay silent, your potential remains invisible to the market. And invisible value is rarely rewarded. In economic terms, communication expands your network externalities. The more people you can reach and influence, the greater your economic potential. Professionals who speak confidently, write persuasively, and present clearly build strong networks that lead to collaborations, referrals, and partnerships. These networks increase access to information, capital, and opportunities, which economists recognize as critical factors in economic success. Another hook, your net worth is your net worth, and communication is how you build the network. Each conversation can lead to a job offer, a business deal, or a mentorship relationship. Entrepreneurs who communicate effectively attract co-founders, investors, and customers. Employees who communicate professionally attract mentors and leadership opportunities. Communication transforms isolated individuals into connected economic players. Globalization and digital platforms have expanded markets beyond borders, but only for those who can communicate across cultures, platforms, and audiences. English proficiency, presentation skills, digital content creation, and negotiation abilities allow individuals to participate in global markets. Communication, therefore, acts as an economic multiplier, allowing one person's ideas and services to reach millions. In professional environments, opportunities often go to those who speak up, share ideas, and articulate solutions. Meetings, conferences, emails, and reports are marketplaces of ideas, and those who communicate effectively capture attention and resources. Silence rarely creates promotions, investments, or partnerships. When you level up your communication, you expand your economic territory. You move from local opportunities to global markets, from limited connections to powerful networks, from hidden potential to visible value. Communication is not just a skill, it is the infrastructure that carries your ambitions into the marketplace and transforms relationships into revenue-generating opportunities. In economics, income is rarely fixed. It is negotiated. Salaries, contracts, partnerships, investments, and business deals are all influenced by negotiation. And negotiation is powered by communication. The person who communicates with clarity, confidence, and strategy often secures better terms, higher pay, and stronger positions. Your words can literally increase your income. Communication is not just expression, it is leverage in the marketplace. Here's a hook. The difference between what you earn and what you could earn is often one conversation. Many people accept what is offered because they lack the communication skills to negotiate effectively. They fear asking, explaining their value, or defending their worth. In contrast, strong communicators present data, tell compelling stories, and frame their contributions in economic terms, which shifts power in their favor.
In labor markets, negotiation power is linked to perceived value. When you communicate your achievements, skills, and impact in a structured and persuasive way, you increase your bargaining position. Employers are more willing to pay higher wages to individuals who can demonstrate their contribution to productivity and profits. Communication turns effort into measurable outcomes that decision-makers can understand and reward. Another hook: silence is expensive, but strategic speech is profitable. In business negotiations, the ability to articulate terms, clarify expectations, and persuade stakeholders determines who captures the larger share of value. Entrepreneurs negotiate with investors, suppliers, and customers. Managers negotiate with teams and executives. Freelancers negotiate with clients. Every negotiation is an economic battleground where communication is the primary weapon. In financial terms, communication affects both revenue and costs. Effective negotiators secure better pricing, favorable contracts, and long-term partnerships. Poor communication leads to misunderstandings, weak agreements, and lost opportunities. Economists call this bargaining power, and communication is one of its strongest determinants. Those who control the narrative often control the outcome.
In global and digital markets, negotiation extends beyond face-to-face conversations to emails, proposals, presentations, and online platforms. Professionals who master persuasive writing and digital communication can negotiate across borders and scale their income beyond local limits. Communication skills, therefore, act as an income multiplier, expanding the range and size of economic transactions you can influence. When you level up your communication, you level up your negotiation power. You become someone who can defend your worth, frame your value, and shape decisions. In economics, those who negotiate effectively do not just participate in markets, they dominate them. In economics, productivity is the engine of growth, and communication is one of the most powerful drivers of productivity. Productivity is not just about working harder. It is about working smarter, faster, and more efficiently. When communication is clear, tasks are completed correctly, teams coordinate better, and organizations avoid costly mistakes. Every misunderstood message is a hidden economic loss, and every clear message is a productivity gain. Communication is therefore a critical factor in personal success and economic performance. Here's a hook. Time is money, and communication decides how much time you waste or save. When instructions are clear, people execute with precision. When feedback is constructive, performance improves. When goals are communicated effectively, teams focus on what matters most. In contrast, poor communication leads to confusion, rework, delays, and conflict, all of which reduce productivity and increase costs. In organizations, communication shapes workflow and efficiency. Managers who communicate expectations, priorities, and responsibilities reduce uncertainty and duplication of effort. Employees who communicate progress and challenges enable faster problem solving. Economically, this reduces transaction costs and increases output. Clear communication aligns human capital with organizational strategy, turning individual effort into collective productivity. Another hook. Productivity is not just about effort. It is about alignment. And alignment comes from communication. When everyone understands the vision, strategy, and metrics, they move in the same direction. This alignment multiplies results. A team that communicates effectively can outperform a larger team with poor communication, demonstrating how communication amplifies economic efficiency. In the knowledge economy, productivity increasingly depends on information flow. Data analysts, engineers, marketers, and leaders must translate complex information into actionable insights. Professionals who can communicate technical information in simple terms become productivity accelerators, enabling faster decisions and better outcomes. Communication, therefore, becomes a form of intellectual infrastructure, supports innovation and growth. Digital tools have increased the speed of communication, but speed without clarity can reduce productivity. Emails, messages, and meetings can either accelerate progress or create noise. Those who master concise, structured, and purposeful communication cut through noise and drive results. They become productivity leaders in their organizations and industries. When you level up your communication, you increase your productivity and the productivity of everyone around you. You reduce friction, eliminate confusion, and create momentum. In economic terms, communication transforms effort into output, strategy into execution, and potential into measurable performance. So remember this: leveling up your life is not just about degrees, skills, or hustle. It's about mastering the art of communication. Speak with intention. Speak with confidence. Speak with value. Because when you level up your communication, you don't just change conversations, you change careers, communities, and entire economies. Thank you.